On August 11th, 2014, at approximately 11:55 a.m., Marin County Communications received a 911 telephone call reporting that a male adult had been located unconscious and not breathing inside his residence located at 95 St. Thomas Way in unincorporated Tiburon, California. The caller was distraught and indicated at that time that was an apparent suicide due to a hanging had taken place and that rigor mortis had set in. The Sheriff's Office, as well as representatives of the Tiburon Fire Department and Southern Marin Fire Protection District, were dispatched to the incident with emergency personnel arriving on scene at 12 p.m. The male subject, who was pronounced deceased by firefighters from the Tiburon Fire Department at 12:02 p.m., has been identified as Robin McLaurin Williams, a 63-year-old resident of unincorporated Tiburon, California. Preliminary information developed during the investigation by Coroner Division personnel has revealed Mr. Williams had been seeking treatment for depression. Mr. Williams was last seen alive by his wife at approximately 10:30 p.m. on August 10th, 2014, when she retired for the evening in a room in the home. It is unknown at this time when Mr. Williams retired for the evening in a bedroom in his home. At approximately 10:30 a.m. on August 11, 2014, Mr. Williams' wife left the home, believing Mr. Williams to still be asleep. Mr. Williams' personal assistant became concerned at approximately 11:45 a.m. when he failed to respond to knocks on his bedroom door. At that time, the personal assistant was able to gain access to Mr. Williams' bedroom and entered the bedroom to find Mr. Williams clothed in a seated position, unresponsive, with a belt secured around his neck, with the other end of the belt wedged between the closed closet door and the door frame. His right shoulder area was touching the door, with his body perpendicular to the door and slightly suspended. Mr. Williams, at that time, was cool to the touch, with rigor mortis present in his body and livor mortis positioned appropriately for the position he was located in. The inside of Mr. Williams' left wrist had several acute superficial transverse cuts. A pocket knife with a closed blade was located in close proximity to Mr. Williams. The pocket knife was examined and a dry red material was located on the blade of the knife, which appeared consistent to dried blood. It is unknown at this time if the dried red material is in fact blood or if it is Mr. Williams' blood, but scientific testing will be conducted to evaluate its investigative value. Mr. Williams was transported from the scene to the Napa County Sheriff's Office morgue by the Coroner Division pending a forensic examination, which was conducted this morning prior to this press conference. The forensic examination, conducted by Dr. Joseph Cohen, who is the Sheriff's Office for Marin County's chief forensic pathologist, did not reveal any injuries indicating Mr. Williams had been in a struggle or a physical altercation prior to him being located deceased. The preliminary, and I again say preliminary, results of the forensic examination revealed supporting physical signs that Mr. Williams' life ended from asphyxia due to hanging. Toxicology testing will be conducted to determine if Mr. Williams had any chemical substances in his system at the time of his death. Toxicology results will not be available for approximately 2 to 6 weeks while the testing is being performed. Please note that this is an active investigation into the cause, manner, and circumstances of Mr. Williams' death. The work of the coroner's office is not complete at this time. The final cause and manner of death will not be certified until the conclusion of the investigation, which is several weeks away. When the investigation is concluded and our final results are ready for dissemination, a press conference will be scheduled at that time. Additionally, I have received numerous requests for copies of 911 and dispatch recordings as well as investigative reports. Please note each request will be handled in accordance with Public Record Act guidelines, with responses provided to those who have submitted them within 10 days. Media inquiries should be continued to be directed to me, Lieutenant Keith Boyd, via my email at kboyd, which is spelled Kboyd, at marinsheriff.org, MARINSHERIFF.org. I will respond to these inquiries, time permitting, as I receive them. Please keep in mind at this time the Coroner's Division is also investigating active cases from other residents of this community. So I will respond to your inquiries, time permitting. Okay, that concludes my written statement at this time, and I will open up to take a few questions, understanding that this is an active investigation and there is some information that will be withheld until the final press conference in several weeks.
Based on the fact that there was rigor mortis, that it set in, does that give you more of an idea, a timeline of when this incident may have taken place?
Rigor mortis is a sign that will be evaluated in conjunction with the livor mortis, lividity, to try to correlate a time period that the death may have occurred. Understanding that there is no perfect environment when you're talking about scientific studies in lividity and rigor mortis, so we will use known facts to kind of try to surmise when the death may have occurred.
Lieutenant, was there any indication he left a note?
We're not discussing the note or a note at this point, as the investigation is ongoing, and that information will be discussed at a future time at the concluding press conference.
Were there any signs within the home of drug or alcohol use?
The investigation is ongoing. Toxicology testing will be conducted to determine if any chemical substances were in Mr. Williams' system at the time of his death, and at that time we'll have a determination as to whether or not there were any signs that he may have been under the influence or incapacitated by any other substance.
You said he was seated at the time, is that correct? Seated at that time?
He was slightly suspended in a seated position. A copy of this transcript of this statement will be posted on the Sheriff's Office press page at the conclusion of this press conference, so that way you have a copy of it. Lividity is the pooling of human blood through to gravity. So when you pass, your blood is no longer flowing through your remains. What happens is it stops flowing and it starts to pool due to gravity and settle. There are signs and studies that indicate after a certain period of time when that settling is locked in. During early stages, lividity can be adjusted if remains are moved or not removed. The lividity in Mr. Williams was consistent to the position he was found in.
Just to be clear, were they sleeping in separate bedrooms?
We're not going into that part of the investigation. What I will say is that she retired to bed. Mr. Williams' wife retired prior to Mr. Williams into a room in the home. It is not known exactly at this time when Mr. Williams retired for the evening, but he went to a different room of the home.
Was this his first attempt at suicide?
What I will say is he's been treated for depression. Outside of that, at this time, we have some concerns about HIPAA protections, so we're a little slightly prohibited in getting into future aspects until the investigation progresses a little further.
You said he was wearing...
I had a question over here first.
Was this his first attempt at suicide?
We're not releasing any information to that effect as the investigation is ongoing. We still have people we want to speak with, and so there is some information we are going to withhold.
And Lieutenant,
I heard somebody over here, a male. Yes, ma'am.
what other information about his health did you glean from your investigation and your examination
With what respect do you mean?
with his prior health before the suicide?
Any other findings from the forensic examination specific to his health will be addressed at the future autopsy. Future press conference.
About heart issues?
That will all come to light at the future press conference. At this time, it's not a factor of what we're going to discuss relevant to what our findings were today.
You said that he was fully clothed. Was he wearing the same clothes that he'd been wearing the previous evening?
What I said was he was clothed. I didn't say fully clothed. I said he was clothed, and that's what we're going to say. He had clothes on, and that's how we're going to address that at this point until the investigation is concluded.
Were the cuts on his wrist recent?
They were acute, superficial. Acute is recent.
Is that what killed? Can you say if that's what killed him? And do you have at least an estimate on when he died?
When you say, can you explain what, are you talking about the night? No, superficial wounds were not the preliminary cause of death. The preliminary cause of death is asphyxia due to hanging.
And then do you have a estimated time on when he may have died?
The investigation is ongoing. Unfortunately, we still have to surmise based on things that we're going to look into, lividity, rigors, other factors to try to come up with a generalized idea of when he passed. That will be released at the future press conference when the investigation is concluded.
In interviews with the family, did they indicate any troubling signs from Robin?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
In interviews with the family, did they indicate any troubling signs from Robin?
At this time, investigation is ongoing. I'm not going to get into the specifics of our interviews and such because we still have more to conduct, and we want to be able to have untainted information from individuals we may speak with versus saying what we already may know from those interviews. One second. Dr. Joseph Cohen is the chief forensic pathologist for the Marin County Sheriff's Office.
How many superficial wounds were there?
He said he was found seated. Was there a chair nearby? Was he in a chair or was he on the floor?
He was not in a chair. He was suspended, as I indicated, from the belt, which was wedged between the door and the door frame, in a seated position, slightly suspended off the ground.
Off the top of the floor.
Lieutenant, has the Sheriff's Department ever been at that home before? And for what reason?
At this time, I don't have that information, but to my knowledge, we have not been to the home for previous contacts. Hold on one sec. Over here.
How many superficial wounds were there?
We're not releasing the nature of how many superficial wounds they are, size, dimensions, or anything to that effect, other than saying at this time that they are superficial in nature only.
Why was the autopsy conducted in Napa County rather than Marin?
The autopsy was conducted in Napa County, primarily due to the Marin County Sheriff's Office does not possess a government morgue facility. We have a private contract with a local mortuary who the facilities are up to par with a government morgue, but it is not a government facility. And due to security concerns and the opportunity to ensure that we want to preclude images and other things, what may have occurred in that exam going public, we used a facility that we knew was secure. I've already addressed that.
When did Susan land the death?
You said superficial wounds. Were they on his wrist?
As I said, they were on the inside of his left wrist.
Was there reports that he was thin? Do you have what his body weight was?
We're not getting into specific questions like that. Those statements can be asked at the future press conference. Yes, ma'am.
Was there anybody else at home? In the house?
Well, his personal assistant found him, so I'm not sure the direction. His wife went to sleep at 10:30 p.m. the prior evening.
What is the name of the assistant?
We're not releasing that information at this time.
So, Lieutenant, the only people that you believe were in the home when Mr. Williams died was his wife herself, correct?
Correct.
The personal assistant arrived that morning.
Correct.
Were the children his wife home at the time?
As this gentleman just asked, the only people we believe at this time to be in the home was Mr. Williams and Mr. Williams' wife.
Was there a note left at the scene?
I've already answered about the note. We're not discussing that at this time.
You said the wife left. When did she return? In the morning.
Mr. Williams' wife returned shortly after Sheriff's Office personnel arrived on scene and Fire Department personnel arrived on scene. She was aware of his passing at a very early time in this incident.
And was it just coincidental that she returned at that time and she was done with?
I'm not going to get into those specifics at this time.
So is it believed?
I'm going to take about 5 more questions, and then we're going to move on. So number 1 here.
So is it believed that he died sometime between 10:30 and when he was found in the morning?
It's a reasonable summation that he passed between 10:30 p.m. when he was last seen alive and 12 o'clock when the fire department arrived on scene. What we'll be working on is trying to narrow that down if it's possible.
12 noon.
Correct.
Can you give
Two.
a little more detail on the room where he was found?
No, sir. Not at this time. It was inside the home at 95 St. Thomas.
What was he doing when his wife went to bed?
Lieutenant Boyd, you said the investigation continues now. What exactly are you all looking for? Who are you hoping to speak with as we move forward?
We want to, in an investigation that's ongoing, although the preliminary indication right now indicates this is a suicide, we want to be thorough. We want to make sure that we cover all our bases, dot all our I's, cross all our T's to make sure that we're not forgetting anything else, that we're not being presumptive and overlooking something that's critical to the case. So we're going to continue to review individuals who may have information that's pertinent to our case, medical information, medical history. It's a comprehensive standard coroner investigation. Mr. Williams' case is consistent with any investigation that we conduct for any citizen who passes within the boundaries of Marin County. Unfortunately, due to the notoriety of Mr. Williams, that's why all of you are here today.